Good morning, everybody. You are joining us on a pre-recorded yet still live session here with Denisia from Top Down. How are you doing this morning, Denisia?
Good, good. It was a long morning already, starting at 5. So,
I know you got the time zone swap hitting you,
yeah,
and you're still here for coffee chats.
yeah.
I'm so
hmm
excited. And why is the time zone hitting you, Denisia? You were just traveling recently, right?
I was in Toronto visiting family there. We don't have any family here in Vancouver, and so I do an annual trip with my kids to meet my family and get to know them, build the relationships.
That's amazing. I love Toronto. I spent. You could fly me. You could spin me around and blindfold me in that Toronto airport. I just know it too well. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, it was fun.
That's
But,
good.
but never throw me in the Sheridan again. That's where we always get our offsite. So I'm done with that Sheridan. Um,
Yeah, I like doing it in short stints. It's too busy, too big for me. Everything's so far away, so I prefer Vancouver.
well, we're going to get into something that's too big and too busy for our
Yeah.
industry right now today. Speaking of, with the side of AI, I'm really excited about this topic. Well, having you in on this topic here at Coffee Chats, we talk about AI all the time, but there's a lot of real, there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of noise. And today we're going to talk about your investor lens on that real, that hype, and that noise. And so I'm excited to do that. But before I do that, I always like to know you and get to know your story. And so, Denisia, backstage, we were talking, you're an outsider from the industry, but you've got a lot of exposure to it after the capital close announcement that Top Down just did. So we'll dig into all of that, but I want to know you. Give us the 3 or 4 minute version of the Denisia story. I don't want the helicopter view. I want to get to know you on the other side this morning.
Yeah, sure. I actually have an engineering background, and my family immigrated here so I could study engineering. And so post that, or while I was studying, moved into took an IT job. It was with an ERP company, and started on the R&D side. And so it was, probably this will probably age me, but during sort of the cloud era, and basically they were taking their on-premise solution and building a web application. And so that's when I got in the company, and helped on the product design side, customer conversations, trying to figure out the customer needs, things like that, and then designing the web application accordingly. And then once we did that, then it was like, okay, what is this web application? How do we sell it? And so went into the technical demo, tech engineering role. And then from there went into the implementation side. So, I got the full lens, from R&D to sort of project implementations. And it was on large projects, like Air Canada, Qantas, Air Mauritius. So, enterprise companies, and got to see sort of what it took in terms of change management, things like that. And so it's not just about building, a great product, but delivering it and all that. So once I did all that, and then I decided, okay, I really like the business side, wanted to learn a bit more on the finance side. And so did my MBA, and then, doing different stints, ended up in VC. And I really liked the VC stuff because it was sort of a good blend of both, which was the business, finance, but also the tech. And you're always staying on top. You're always learning. You basically in the mindset that you don't know, what's upcoming, and you're learning from the founders. You're learning, from research, things like that, and so it's great. I love this role. I did it for 9 years at BDC. BDC is Business Development Bank of Canada, which is a government institution. And then after I did that, you know, got introduced to Top Down and loved what they were building. Like you said, I don't come from the MSP space. I had to actually Google what MSP does before I talked to Joel. But loved it. Like I got great exposure in terms of operations, fundraising, and then I help out on the due diligence side as well. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Well, for those who don't know the MSP side, it is not in Minneapolis Airport. I've made that mistake a time or two. Jokes aside, it is such an interesting space. We're obviously very fortunate to have you in it with us, Denisia. We actually have very similar backgrounds, deep engineering background, went into sales engineering, never made it to implementation and the success side, but I deeply believe in the era where we're heading, that success is the future of SaaS. Engineering changes a lot, and now there's more headcount and capital for success. So I have a lot of new opinions on the success side of the house, but it's always been, in my opinion, one of the most important sides of the house. So kudos to your effort. I wanted to make an Air Canada joke, but we don't have enough time for all that. I want to jump into the show. Before we got into it, you sent me some backstage notes on some amazing research that Top Down's been doing. And I want to start there. And I want to talk about this canvas here. I'm going to make it bigger for everybody that is joining us on the show. But you've broken the canvas down into sell, deliver, and run. And the whole show today is what's real, what's hype, and what's noise. So maybe walk me through that. Like, help me understand your reason behind building this canvas and the way that it helps you cut through the noise when making investments.
Yeah. So when I started to, it was a year, I started looking at all the different companies, trying to identify the categories, and we made some investments in 2024 and then later, and just trying to map that out, right? And so first, this is actually the second iteration of this visual or image. The first one looked at sort of, where the data was flowing from SMBs to MSPs, and then back, and then sort of mapping out the different categories, and then our portfolio accordingly. And so this is a second iteration of it. And I think this is, and the reason why we had the first iteration was because AI was evolving fast. And we wanted to see sort of where the data was flowing and where AI could sit on that data, right? So that was why we were looking at it from that lens. And this is now looking at it from the MSP lens and really, what is this vendor helping? MSP has, finite amount of dollars, and the three categories they're looking at is either improving the way they're delivering solutions to their clients, how they operate, or what the SMB clients buy, right? So that's revenue for them. So not, the first two buckets I would say that I mentioned, delivery and run operations, is more sort of, improving efficiency, improving their margins. But then, what SMB buys is where sort of they're actually growing the business, they're generating additional revenue to the MSP.
Yeah, I love the way you've broken it down. And as an MSP operator for, a decade and a half, it's a really clear way to see it, right? With the structural gap, 400 million SMBs, we got to get really framework oriented to this whole problem. I look at this as a great framework if you're an MSP, mapping your stack against this and being able to identify what fits and where overlap might live. And we're moving into an era, though, where lots of lines are starting to get blurred. Engineering is moving extraordinarily fast in lean AI companies. And so I want to talk about, it's easy to have a good demo in today's era. That used to be the barrier of entry. I remember raising capital in one of my first two SaaS companies. It was always about how good is the product, how durable is the product. But it's easy to do a good demo today. I can code a demo overnight and pitch you on a whole proposal. So what separates a good demo from durable value? What's your thoughts on that, Denisia?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So my previous experience actually in VC has been on later stage. So Series A, Series B. And at that stage, typically you have, the metrics. You can calculate the CAC. You can see it, if they meet the rule of 40 rule, right? And there's metrics that you can do cohort analysis. You can look at retention. But at the pre-seed and the seed stage, which is what top-down focuses on, it's hard. It's hard to do that. So we generally rely on the founders and the demo and to give us context, right? But then like you say, we have to dig in deeper. Even though we're at the pre-seed seed stage, we have to look at proof points. We have to look at evidence validation. Like, have you sold to an MSP, right? Like, are they paying? Even if it's a small ARR, are they paying for the product today? IP is always good, but it's hard with software, right? Like it's hard to have IP, but even if not, do you have a unique approach of solving this problem, right? And that actually gets me first to the first point is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? We're seeing a lot of companies focus just in, one category and trying to solve the same problem with just sort of different versions to how they're solving it. But, we're looking for companies that nobody is building in that space, right? We're trying to find those unique, ones that have the moat, the real moat, not just the code, right? AI is sort of commoditizing, code models. And so really it is, what is that defensible moat? What data do you have access to? Do you have the customer's trust? Things like that. And by trust, we're looking, it only comes from if you have the guardrails and policies, you have the switches on and off, so they can turn the automation on and off depending on their comfort level. Are you telling them when there's an error that happens, right? During the automation, things like that. That's where trust comes from. And so, we look at the context, we look at, the founders, we look at all the different aspects of the product, and then, whether they fit into these three categories. We like if you sell through more than if you're sort of an enabled platform, primarily because it gives us also a sense of market size, right? And, we got 50 MSPs in the US, around there, or 150 globally. So you can do the bottoms up TAM math very easily if you know the pricing, right? And so the sell-through model is where, the biggest market size potential. But then, is it coming through expansion? Is that sort of, your go-to-market? What is it? So it's looking at all these different aspects of the company, not just sort of the demo. And sort of determining if it's, a good fit for our portfolio and the fund and so on.
Yeah, obviously a lot of indicators to make that decision, right? You have no shortage of opportunity to make investments, but I love having a good rubric. I'm curious, just kind of a side, your personal opinion or thought, like, what's one of those unquantifiable things that really stands out to you when you're having these conversations that you go, maybe it doesn't fit in the rubric, but I really like to see it? Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, and we've made a couple of investments based on that. One is, because this is a pre-seed and seed stage, a lot of it is around the founder, right? And so, are they a hustler? Will they build this no matter what, whether they get an investment from us or not? Have they bootstrapped so far? Things like that, looking at really their personality, and sort of, whether they're a go-getter or not. We see a lot of companies come to us where, they're like, we'll raise the funds, then we'll build. And it's like, okay, no, build, then raise the funds, right? And like I said, you don't have to have 500, 1 million ARR, right? We're looking at early proof points, but we're looking to see that you will go out there, because at the seed stage, it's founder-led sales, right? You don't have the money to build a whole sales team, and you don't need it in today's environment. Like AI is easy to build, and AI solutions are easy to build. And if you have product market fit, it shouldn't be, you shouldn't need a large sales team, right? And so, the founder personality, I would say, and their ability to sell and so on, or be a hustler, is very key. And execution as well.
Yeah, I think, founder hustle is one thing I see in our industry goes really far. This is an industry of founders. Every managed service provider owner was a tech converted founder at one point. It's not like we're in a deep-seated 200-year-old industry. We're in a 30, 40-year-old industry, which means a lot of the leaders that started at the beginning are still leading their firms. So there's a deep appreciation and empathy for founders. I liked what you said too. The way I always heard your phrase as, are they going to build it despite us? My always investment thesis and thinking when I look at, that angel pre-seed stages, will this person be successful despite my advice? Like, if I give them no advice and I give them wrong advice, will they still be successful? So, no, I love the way that you're looking at that. And I think it really, it speaks to our industry more than other industries. I don't know if I'm curious, do you think that translates? I know this is completely, we've gone off the rail, but do you think that translates outside this industry, but based off your past experience?
It translates how, in what
On the
sense?
founder side, that founder hustle. I
Of
don't know.
course, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah, of course. Even, yeah, no, even the non-MSP. I mean, there are many companies competing for the same dollar, right? And it's the hustlers, the ones that are able to sell, execute, are the ones that win because, like you say, they may get 1,000 no's from investors, right?
Yep.
1,000 no's from customers, but then they pivot, they figure it out, right? And they keep moving the ball. And I think those are the type of personalities that win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I like it. It's a hustler's moat, I think, is where I'm going to go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to switch back into this here. We've got this map that Top Down has put together. I want to talk about where the smart money's heading. And I want to understand where you're looking across these three different layers of deliver and sell and run. Like, what are some themes you're seeing, or what are some ideas that you're seeing that you are investing in, and what are areas that you're looking to invest in that maybe you don't have a check mark on this box yet?
Yeah, so you're just looking at from the AI sort of perspective, I would say a number of solutions are in that delivery category, and so specifically on the service automation and agent side of things, I've seen now almost 30 plus, and keep seeing new companies targeting the space. And like I said, many of them just have like a slight it's difference between other companies, and so you're seeing this category, we're seeing this theme very crowded today. And then there's also the intelligence and monitoring, and so investing in Lexful and Cork and so on, and then the security side. So yeah, we've seen a ton of companies in the delivery side of it. And then now recently we're moving into sort of the sell aspect. And so managed AI, managed security is where we're seeing sort of more companies, and our recent investments in, your company, and then Lemhi, and then Synthrio, where you're, delivering to the SMB clients. A lot of SMBs now want AI in their tech stack, and they don't know how, So companies like yourself, where you're helping with the transformation, Synthrio, where they're providing digital, workforce agents to help the SMB clients. This is where we see more companies now in these categories, and I'm seeing more and more actually. And so trying to understand sort of, what is, Lemhi's approach is quite unique to what Synthrio is doing, right? And Longwave as well, which is focused on AI governance. And so, and then we're seeing more and more of these similar type of solutions with different approaches. And so, trying to I understand sort of where they sit in this tech stack. I guess the next theme that we're looking at right now as well is on the FinOps side. I know initially I said, we're looking at the sell through because of market size and so on, but there is still a lot of efficiency that could be had with FinOps, as well as with, token optimization, cloud optimization, still to this day, right? Because of AI, on the finance side as well. And so I think there's, a few investments that we could make there in the FinOps category as well. And then lastly is the orchestration layer, right? Now, how does this all connect together? Platformization is where it is good to go. Like an MSP can't have 1,000 cybersecurity solutions, right? And this is what Top Down is also focused on. Like, we don't just help on the go-to-market, but we also do help on the product side. And that's why I really, was excited when I met with Joel and learned about sort of what they're trying to build at Top Down. And so from the product side, they help with the roadmap, they help with the collaboration across the portfolio. And it's mainly that, right? Like, we're trying to, not own the tech stack, but this is sort of the platform that an MSP can buy, and then either sell to the MSP or SMB clients, or they can sort of use internally and optimize and improve their margins and so on.
Yeah, I look at this chart here. I see a few categories that jump out to me particularly. I see that AI as a service for SMB, seeing that as an emerging trend for sure. And then that AI data readiness, though it's not flashy, it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely required.
Mm-hmm.
And it, speaking from a transformation layer, it's one of
Yep.
the four pillars of good rollout and what the difference looks like. So super excited to see the emerging people in that category. Always keep my ear to the ground and excited to see
Mm-hmm.
down puts in those categories. I want to jump into a different lens here. We have talked a lot about the categorical approach. We've talked a little bit about what it takes to be part of the investment thesis, or at least to meet that criteria to have the conversation with top down. Let's talk about what MSP leaders can walk away with the way that you look at it. As an MSP leader, you are absolutely inundated with opportunity. There has never been less vendors in the space than today. It is so crowded. It is so noisy. So how can MSP leaders learn from top down as they're doing diligence on platforms for their business?
Yeah, I would say do it in a very similar way in the sense that first, look at proof points. There's a lot of new, could be considered hype solutions, right? That is sort of promising everything, as a lot of good salespeople will do, right?
Yes, I've seen that a time or two too, Denisia. Um,
And then, but what is the durable value that you're getting, right? If you can get metrics, and not in the financial metrics sides, but resolution times, adoption rates, things like that, right? Like really, fundamental change management sort of metrics that could help your organization, I think is really key. And then also, looking at it from this framework that we've shown, right? Like, is this going to help your company internally? Is this going to help with the clients? How is this helping with the clients? How is this working with other products, right? With the tech stack that you already have. What does it mean for pricing, right? Many companies will come in at a lower price to get market share, especially the ones that are looking at workflow automation, and because it's such a crowded space today. But then what does it mean when they gain leverage because now they have access to your data, access to workflow? It's sticky and the prices are going to go up. What does that mean, right, to your offering? Then the other thing that I mentioned was the orchestration, looking at a sort of the platform approach rather than sort of a point solution of feature, right? It may be something that an SMB client is asking, but will this, if it's a feature, this company is not going to last for very long, right? Or they may get rolled up or acquired by another bigger company, right? So just addressing that one need the client has is, I don't think, is sustainable. And then the last one, which is very key for AI, is then looking at how can you build trust, right? So you're automating a lot of the things. Many vendors that I've talked to will not completely automate everything, right? And so that's a good thing. But then we still sort of want to push innovation, right? Like Super IT, we've invested in that, which is sort of looking at a very different way of solving, IT engineer level tickets, so level 3, level 4 tickets, right, with the data that they have access. And that's, but they're still looking at guardrails. They're still looking at policies, because if a mistake is made, it could shut down your entire system, right? So, you need to look at these guardrails, these policies, and then also understanding, like, yes, you may have automated something, but then how do you know if there's a mistake and an error, right? Until your client brings it up. And so looking at that is also, I think, would be very key.
Yeah, I think Denisia, a lot of great advice for an MSP and leader looking to sift through the noise today. We've talked about a lot of different spots we hit through. The high level of the framework, which I think if you are an MSP owner, walk away with that framework, look at where you've got opportunity to grow and expand if you're not checking the box, but then narrow it against, like, what is your business going to need in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and how are you supporting your customers as a result of that? So huge takeaway there. I got a lot of walking away through from an investor lens. So there's a lot of serial angel investors in our ecosystem They're going to walk away with some great nuggets of wisdom here. I think, though, in a rounding segment to a degree, while AI is hype and AI is noise, a lot of the foundation sits there. The same fundamentals that define SaaS companies still define AI companies. It's just pivoting into making sure that you've got that deep context. That's something that, that moat that can't be replaced. You've got that hustle that can't be out hustled. And a lot of the foundations stay the same as we evolve. Though I will say, I think the TAM has grown dramatically bigger, which makes it even more exciting to be in the MSP space right now.
Yeah, I think the difference is only like it's faster to build now.
Yeah, and it's so much more fun as a result, I think, personally. But that comes with its own trade-offs and its own downstream problems one day. But not today. We won't deal with that one today, Denisia. I forgot earlier I was going to make a comment on FinOps. You talked about FinOps for the MSP, a category that I think really will emerge next year is FinOps for the clients. We're all footing VC bills right now, and when that ball drops, somebody's going to have to help them. So another category into the mix, downstream sell-through FinOps and token economics is going to be really interesting as we grow, assuming they can get the adoption that they need. All right. We're at the tail. We got 5 minutes left, Denisia. I've got just a couple wrap-up segments. First, I always like to ask the question, was there a question that you expected me to ask today that I didn't ask you that you'd like to answer?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then we did a great job on the host.
There you go.
I love it. I'm glad to hear that we were able to hit it all. But we got through a lot. I can't believe we did that in 25 minutes. The last two segments are really simple, Denisia. We have the rapid fire wrap up. And so then we have the shameless plug at the very end where you get the opportunity to promote anything you want at the end of the show for giving us time today. But first, the rapid fire wrap ups. I sent you the run of show, but I didn't send you this segment, I hope. This segment has got some very simple rules.
Okay.
You have as much time as you want to think about the answer, but you're only allowed to answer it in one sentence or less. Okay. So I'm going to walk through some categories and you're going to hit them. Well, speaking of categories, the first question, what is one AI category in the MSP space that is overfunded right now?
Overfunded. That's a good question. I would say still the service desk, service automation.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of money is still going into that. And then I think the next one will be AI management. Yeah.
Agreed. One that's quietly underrated.
Oh, underrated. I would say FinOps. As you mentioned, like especially, I know a lot of companies are talking about inference and so on, but I think token optimization is still not top of mind, and it will be as you sort of scale and grow.
Yes.
Because it'll be very expensive very soon.
Yes, absolutely. If you only got to bet on one, do you bet on the team or the technology?
Ooh, that's tricky. At the pre-seed seed stage, I would say the team.
I'm with you, but I can't imagine making an investment without seeing the technology. So put you under the radar on that one. Most AI MSP startups are features, not companies. True or false?
Sorry, say that again. Most AI?
Most of the startups you're seeing in our space right now are features, not companies. True or false?
True.
Yeah. Will the AI bubble pop or deflate?
Yeah, and true, and I think it's already starting. And which is why, if we don't invest, it's not because, I know this is a long answer, but it's not because we don't like the technology, we don't like the team, it's the valuation.
Yeah.
We will not invest at a higher valuation just because it's AI. We're trying to be mindful of that, and because we know, and I think it's already happening.
Now, Microsoft put some signals in the water with their co-work launch and the way that they're doing that. I think token economics are coming, and that's going to slow the velocity dramatically. Finish this sentence. An AI bet is worth making when ...
Hmm. An AI bet is worth making when they have access to the good quality telemetry, and they're really providing a unique solution to the customer using that data.
I love it. That's a great answer. I have one more final question for you here. I wrote this one down earlier from your points of, we don't have rule of 40. We don't have CAC payback. We don't have these core metrics that should exist when a Series A comes around when we're doing pre-seed investments. But I want to get into those metrics for 1 second. What is one metric that you think will not matter in the next couple of years that used to matter a lot as we move into this next era?
Ooh.
I know I had to give you a real simple answer. How about I could answer it to give you some time.
Sure, yeah. What's your thought?
I'll take the freebie one. I think engineering velocity and product roadmap delivery was always a core metric to a degree. Not a metric, but sub-metrics that supported its deliverability. And then I think some support metrics might start to fade away into the distance, AI-based support.
Yeah, I can tell you what will be important.
Let's do that.
Then rather than won't be, because there's probably a lot of vanity metrics out there. But I think, growth at all costs is not, like, fundraising is so hard these days. So unit economics is super key. So it's not just seeing, the rule of 40 always relied on sort of, the growth and margins. But I think, it's, you still, and, at the pre-seed and seed stage, you're going to have a high burn no matter what. But I think making sure the two combined, like I said, unit economics is you need to look at it even at the pre-seed seed stage, because you make sure you're heading in the right direction, even if you don't have the numbers there at this point.
I agree. I think fundamentals are going to come back here as we get out of crazy land. I'm a Midwestern guy, so I'm much more conservative. I'm excited to get back into fundamental land. We're a basketball county over here. We like to practice our layups before going straight to half court shots. So I always love the fundamentals when those are thriving. So thank you so very much for spending the time with us today. Before I let you go, I'm just going to give you an opportunity for a shameless plug to sign off our show. Why should they get hold of you? If they want to learn about Top Down, how do they do it? And anything that you've got exciting coming up from the Top Down side. Take us away.
Well, thank you first for having me. If you want to get in contact with us, just go to our website. You can fill out the form, and we'll get in touch with you. We are sort of still, catching up post a final close, but we will definitely get in touch with you. And a shameless plug is I would like to talk about our Horizons conference. We have it every year in November. Again, if you would like to learn more, you can go to our website. But this is the only conference where we bring, the vendors, MSPs, and capital. I think there's a lot of conferences out there for vendors and MSPs, but this is the only one that brings three different stakeholders to the table. And so a lot of interesting conversations, a lot of interesting panels as well. So please check it out and join the waitlist. It should go live soon for registrations. And so, yeah, excited to see everyone there.
Likewise, I'll be there. I actually just booked my flights to Scottsdale today.
Awesome.
So super excited to go out there. This time I'm bringing my hiking shoes. I want to get that big mountain back there. I don't know the name of it, but I've seen it in Scottsdale 3 times now, and I haven't traversed it yet. So thank you so much.
Hopefully, no worries. Thank you.
Everybody out in Scottsdale this November 18th through the 20th at Top Down Horizons. Have a wonderful morning. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.